Hi, this is Mrs. Welch. Today we are going over Chapter 4, Demand. I'm not going over this chapter in too much detail because you have both the reading and the notes that you're going to see online, but I'm going to add some extra material verbally that maybe you wouldn't get from the reading. So we're going to go through. We're going to need to be quick to use all the time we can. Don't worry about those sections, but these are some things that we'll be talking about. All right, so the law of demand states that when consumers buy more of a good, when its price decreases and less when the price increases. So all of you have had this experience in your life where something that you want is on sale, so you're like, oh, I'm going to go buy it. That's the law of demand. Price is low, you're going to be more likely to buy it. And you can see this in numbers and charts. People do buy more when the price is low. Two different effects. Is it going to disappear? It never does, does it? That also influence the law of demand is, there we go, the substitution effect and the income effect, which I'm about to talk about. Oh, and here is the best way I teach the law of demand. I actually made this infographic. I hope you guys enjoy it. It took me like 10 minutes to make both of these pictures, so I just want some kudos for making this because I visually couldn't show you. In class, I usually have a ruler that I balance with to kind of visually show, but you know, this does a pretty good job too. So as you can see here, when price goes up, demand goes down. So when something gets super expensive, you don't want to buy any of it, right? Makes sense. But when price goes down, all of a sudden the demand is high, right? When there's a sale, right? All of a sudden we're more likely to buy, and we might buy more than one. All right, so let's talk about the substitution effect and the income effect. We'll actually be bringing both of these up a little bit, in just a little bit. Substitutes. So substitutes are just like substitute teacher. It's something that you can, I hate saying substitute within, but it replaces. It's an item that replaces the other item, right? The classic example I always like to use is milk and almond milk. Right? Almond milk is a substitute for milk. So according to this, substitution effect occurs when customers react to an increase in the goods price. All right, by consuming less and more of the other goods, or the substitutes. So in this case, if the price of milk, it's about $4 a gallon on average. If it were to go up to about $10 a gallon, but almond milk remained at $4, you all would be more likely to buy the almond milk. And this is a good time for me to say, your personal preferences when we go over this lesson, throw them out the window. I had a student famously years ago tell me if a cup of coffee, the house coffee at Starbucks was $100 for a tall cup, I would still buy it. And I was like, good for you, you're called an outlier. When we don't look at outliers, we're looking at the whole, right? So we're looking at how the average consumer is going to react. So they're going to go for the cheaper thing. All right, the income effect is, this is happening sadly right now. It happens when a person changes their consumption of a good or service as a result of change in real income. So let's say you win the lottery. Awesome, right? You win the lottery, and all of a sudden now you can afford to buy more things, right? So you're going to buy more stuff. However, if you lose your job or, I don't know, a virus comes and hits the United States and you're laid off with no fault of your own, you're going to be buying less goods. So that's the income effect in a nutshell. All right, so here's your demand schedules. I'm not going to go through these in too much detail. The only thing I'm going to say is the individual demand schedule is looking at you, the individual. However, most businesses, economies, or what have you, are going to be looking at market schedules. They're not going to look at the individual. This is like you individually. So this is arguing at 50 cents a slice of pizza. You would be willing to buy around 5 slices, right? And down at the bottom, I believe it's what, $3.50 or $3? Yeah, you're going to buy 0. That's just too expensive. And the market demand schedule is the same thing, except it's all consumers within a certain area, right? So in Northern Virginia, 300 people or 300 slices of pizza are going to get sold at 50 cents a slice. At $3, only 50 slices are going to get sold. So you would think, you're like, well, why don't they just sell it at 50 cents? Well, they're not going to make money, and the law of supply interferes with that. And here's the demand curve. It slopes, whoops, let me go back, upper left to bottom right. So Mr. Clifford says demand to the dirt, like a slide, demand to the dirt. Whoop. You see my mouse. So, when reading a demand curve, assume all outside factors such as income are held constant. So remember what we've said, don't look at outside factors. Demand curves are always downward sloping. Just make sure you can recognize it. Here's a review. You can do that on your own time, so I'm skipping along. We got to talk about shifters. So what can move that curve? We're going to skip this. All it is saying is just what I said. Ignore all outside influences. We just look at the numbers, right? We don't look at the exact why. All right, so there's 5 shifters. I have income, consumer expectations, population, and consumer taste and advertising. And then on the next slide is really substitutes and complements, which is the 5th one. So you do need to know these 5 shifters. Income, we just talked about. However, they're focusing on normal and inferior goods. So a normal good is something that you're going to buy more of when you make more money. So clothing, most clothing is normal goods. Lobster, steak, right? Fancy food. Inferior goods are goods that you're going to buy less of if your income increases. So your income increases, you win the lottery. Are you still going to be buying ramen or ravioli, Chef Boyardee? Now, some of y'all are going to be like, yes, but no, you're going to go to the fancier stuff. For consumer expectations, so whether or not you expect a good to increase or decrease in price in the future greatly affects our demand for that good today. So back in the day, and sadly it looks like this is happening again, we were in a recession, and in the newspapers there used to be gas predictors, like gas horoscopes or something. And they would predict if the gas was going to be going up in price or going down in price in the following days. And if they predicted that gas was going up, let's say that it's Wednesday and they said gas prices are going to go up on Friday, are you going to wait till Friday to buy gas? No, you're going to buy it now. So that's going to affect your demand for the good today. So the demand is going to increase that day. Vice versa, if we think that on Saturday or Friday, or excuse me, I said Friday the first time. If on that same Friday, the gas prices are actually going to decrease rapidly, you're going to try to coast it out on those fumes, right? In your car, because you want to get that cheap gas. Population, changes in the size of population. Loudoun County is perfect for this. There's been an increase in demand in Loudoun County in the last 20 years due to people moving here, right, because of the DC area. So the more people means the more demand. We still can't have the same one grocery store to accommodate everyone in Loudoun County, right? No. So you're going to have more grocery stores. You're going to have more retail shops and things like that. On the flip side, you can have the opposite. So in Detroit, for example, a lot of jobs, people have been laid off because of the auto industry leaving Detroit, and because of that, people leave Detroit to look for other work. They're not staying, and that's causing demand to actually decrease because people there's not as many people. And 4, consumer taste and advertising. So think of the Super Bowl. Whenever there's a popular commercial, if it pays off, the retailer or the manufacturer, supplier always gets a boost in sales because people are like, oh, that's awesome. This also can be like if milk is proven to guarantee you a perfect score on your SATs. People are going to go out in droves to buy that milk, right? All right, so last but not least, demand curve, or sorry, complements and substitutes, excuse me. So what can shift the demand curve as well? By the way, and I thought I'd mentioned it, but I don't think I did. If it shifts to the right, that means demand is increasing. If it shifts to the left, it means demand is decreasing. So these two are kind of complicated, so I'll try to be quick, but it's deceptively so. Complements are two goods that are used, or bought and used together. For example, skis and ski boots. And substitutes are goods that we've already talked about, used in place for one another. And how can they change demand? I actually want to talk about substitutes first. So, just like I said, if the price of one good gets too expensive, then people are going to switch and go to the substitute. So, if milk gets too expensive, they're going to go to almond milk, right? Alright, I feel like I explained that one pretty well earlier. So let me go to complements. Complements are two things that go together. My favorite example is peanut butter and jelly. So how can the price of one affect the other? Peanut butter. The price of peanut butter, this is a true story, has been going up slowly, and that's because of an ingredient called palm oil. Palm oil is only found in the Amazon with a certain tree. I'm guessing it's a certain palm tree. And because it's becoming more scarce, that is driving up price. And when price of palm oil goes up, so does the price of peanut butter. What did I say about price and demand? If price goes up, demand goes down, right? So no one's buying peanut butter because the price of peanut butter is expensive. So the demand is low. Unfortunately, the jelly companies and jam companies also get tied in because they're kind of married to peanut butter, right? Peanut butter and jelly. What a classic duo. And even if they don't change their price, they're still affected. So if the price of peanut butter goes up, the demand for peanut butter goes down, and so does the demand for the jelly, even though jelly didn't change their price. It's just one of those bad things that happens. They didn't mean to, I mean, but that's the problem. You gotta, you know, that's kind of the bad thing about complements. Whatever negative happens to one happens to the other. So here's your example. So yeah, I have the almond milk and milk. Also for substitutes, brand. Two different brands can substitute for each other. And I can let you look at that infographic later. Complements, things that go together, peanut butter and jelly, s'mores, graham crackers, marshmallows, and Hershey's chocolate, right? Classic. So that's just one example. All right. Section 3 is elasticity. Now I'm not going to go over the math. You can see the math yourself. It does an excellent job of teaching you. I've had many students use elasticity, these formulas in previous years. You will complete your elasticity worksheet using the formulas given here. But I'm not going to talk about that. So real quick, I only have 2 minutes. There's two types of demand, elastic demand and inelastic. Most things are elastic, meaning they're sensitive to changes in price. Milk, for example, like I just said. Price of milk gets super expensive. People freak out. They're like, well, I'm not going to buy milk. I'm going to buy almond milk. And so on. If there's a substitute, and actually that's going to be the thing, the more substitutes there are, the more elastic the item is. So what makes an item inelastic? If it has less substitutes, it's probably going to be inelastic. A good example is salt. There are no substitutes for salt. And I'm about to run out of time, so I'm going to create another video for you guys. Thank you.